Welcome to the NCO Journal Podcast, where we explore NCO professional development. This is a podcast series where we discuss published articles with authors and provide a forum for the open exchange of ideas, information, and solutions. I'm your host, Staff Sergeant Brandon Cox, Senior Editor of the NCO Journal. With us is Chaga Zapata, the Managing Editor of the NCO Journal. Today we discuss the article, What is the Purpose of Use or Lose Leave? By author Sergeant Major David Vowell. Before we kick things off, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sergeant Major David Vowell. I'm a 15 Tango by trade, Black Hawk helicopter crew chief and mechanic. I've been in the Army for over 22 years and started my time from Iowa, joined right after I turned 18, and have served all over the globe in multiple different divisions, and had the honor of most recently, like before this Army Major Academy, coming from multiple different first sergeant experiences from different type of units, whether it was maintenance units or units that are flight companies in nature, as we call them. But right now, serving as the support operations sergeant major in the 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade here at Fort Bragg, soon to be Fort Liberty. Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Sergeant Major, what inspired you to write this article?
Basically, a lifelong goal of mine was to write. I want to be a writer when I think everyone can be a writer, but I basically, through the Sergeant Major Academy process and actually able to put thoughts and words on paper, I have a list of all these kinds of ideas and pontifications, I guess, of things that we have problems with in the Army that on a daily basis that we kind of just shrug aside, right? That's not a big deal. It's just kind of how the way things are. And I like to challenge those types of things. And it's my significant other now. She's a DA civilian. And I was talking about that day in class, we were kind of talking about how it's just kind of accepted that senior leaders in the Army lose leave. It's just a general normal thing. And I just thought that was kind of, crap, especially, because we have so many soldiers that show up to our units and they're in the hole, and they're in the hole because of Christmas exit or the holiday exodus season, or they're in the hole because they had to go on emergency leave as soon as they arrived. And the commander's not going to, deny that leave, and emergency leave is still chargeable. So they show up with just a couple of days. And then when it comes to, unit block leave or, opportunity leave, these soldiers are not, they're not going to take the leave because they don't want to go in the hole more than what they already are. And so they basically don't get the same amount of time off as everyone else outside of an emergency setting. And I was basically just kind of talking about this out loud with Ms. Miranda. And she said to me just very plainly, well, why don't you just transfer it to them? And I said, what do you mean? Like, that's not a thing. And you can't just transfer your leave to other people. And she said, well, I can. I did it 2 weeks ago. One of my colleagues had to go on emergency leave and he didn't have any leave. And I gave him some time. Our supervisor gave him some time. And it just dumbfounded me, to be honest. So I started looking things up on the OPM website, and there's whole blown, programs about it. And just, I don't know, I talk about it with my peers now, like how many soldiers we have in the 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade that are in the hole right now. We have opportunity leave coming up in June because of our mission tempo has been pretty high. And we have a lot of these soldiers that are not going to take leave because they just don't have the leave to take. And so they're just going to kind of sit back on their rear detachment. And so the inspiration came just from the amount of leave that gets lost every year by senior leaders, combined with the number of soldiers that go in the hole every single year before they arrive to their unit because of holiday exodus or because of their own emergency stake. And the fact that inside of the Army itself, through OPM or through our Department of the Army Civilians, there's already programs that exist to help them with their problem. And I think that we should actually talk about this and kind of say, hey, why aren't we doing this for our soldiers? The reason why the DA civilians are here, I mean, this is probably not the best opinion, maybe, I'm not sure, but without the soldiers, there are no DA Army civilians, right? And so I think that we should maybe share some of these programs or modify or adapt them to, help the soldier out. So there's really no need for anyone to go in the hole.
Can you describe for us briefly the current Army leave policy and why it's coined as use or lose?
Yeah, sure. So the current policy is that you can accrue, you earn 2.5 days per month of a calendar year. And once, and that begins the day that you join the Army, and it is prorated by month. And you can hold up to 60 days before you start basically accruing use or lose leave. And so, that's 30 days per year. And, 60 days would be, 2 years worth of leave. And use or lose basically means with the current guidelines is that you basically, so you say you didn't take leave your first year, so now you have 30. Your second year, you didn't take any leave, so now you have 60 days. And so that third year of accruing leave, the very first month, so your 25th month of earning leave, you now have 62.5 days of leave. So you have 2.5 use or lose days. And so if the calendar was to end there, then by October 1st of that year, you would have to take 2.5 days. But in reality, if you continue not taking leave for that whole calendar year, you're going to have if you don't take leave for 3 years in a row, you're going to have 30 days of use or lose leave. And so not most, but a lot of senior leaders, they just don't have time to take it because of mission, operations or the op tempo. You go on, different deployments or different missions. You wanted to go to JRTC, you wanted to go on leave, and then you ended up going to JRTC instead. Like, these types of things happen. And so you end up with these, you might lose 15 days a year or 10 days. And then it just doesn't, no matter how many times you read the regulation on leave, it doesn't, it's AR 600-8-10. It does not tell you, where that leave goes. It just goes away. And I don't know if that answers the question or not, but if you ask that question, where does my lost leave go? There's no one that can answer that, because it just doesn't go anywhere. It just disappears off of your leave and earnings statement, and that's it. And then you start over again on October 1st.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because in your article you do talk about, people giving that away when they're going to lose it anyway, or just, want to be nice and donate it to more or less to the junior population, as you talk about, would be very beneficial. And I know that this probably only really affects the senior command type and the first sergeants, the commanders, stuff like that. But I've often been in units where those seniors don't take it, and then you almost feel like you don't want to take it because, the op tempo is so high and things are going on, and then, the commander's not taking it, so I probably shouldn't take it. We got to, one team, one fight type thing. And then it just ends up being to where we have too much leave going on and nobody's actually taking it.
Right. Yeah, that's with Command Sergeant Major Lamborina from the cavalry unit. That's why I wanted him to be here today, to kind of explain that story, because there's just this situation of events that have happened, right? Like, second and third order effects where he does not feel right taking leave this year. And that was he took leave over Christmas, but then from January to October, he's not going to take any leave. He has a change of responsibility. There's a change of command. There was JRTC. The unit is actually deploying in July, and he's not going with them. And so there's all these things that are happening that he just doesn't feel right, and I hope I'm not messing up the story, but it's pretty close. But there's all these things. And sure, when he PCSs in October, he has plenty of leave to take 45 or 60 days, but he just does not have the time before then. And then really that leave, he's going to lose, I think he said 26 days. And, it's not going to go anywhere. And there's a couple of different options that cost the Army money, that would make it right for the soldier. Sergeant Major or whoever, they could just pay him for those lost days. I mean, we earn 2.5 days a month, and we're only allowed to sell our leave once a year, or once in our career. But, that at the end of the year, you could just get a paycheck for that lost leave. And I actually don't agree with that. I think that, we also get plenty of time off when it comes to 4-day weekends and, other things where, I don't have, dissimilar to an Army civilian professional, I don't have to worry about paid sick time or those types of things. If I get put on quarters, I get put on quarters. I don't have to worry about it. If I'm ill and I need to recover, or convalescent leave from a soldier, or from a surgery. And so with that in mind, I don't think paying us money for not taking our leave is the right answer. A lot of my peers will disagree with that, but I think that if we're going to even have a use or lose program at all, and I think we do need to have one, because otherwise people will just never take leave and they'll end up having 180 days of leave or more before they retire. But if we're going to have it, then those days that have been paid for already with our work, right? Because we don't get the days that before. You don't get 2.5 days per month on the first. You get them at the end of the month. Then they should go somewhere, and however that works.
So during your research, did you find out why what the hurdles are to keeping something like this from happening for soldiers? To me, your article made so much sense. Why shouldn't a soldier who's getting ready to lose a bunch of leave, why can't he transfer it over to somebody who doesn't have any? It's to me, it just makes so much sense. I'm a DA civilian as well, and this program I think makes a lot of sense, and we use it. We use it all the time, and we're able to donate our leave. So I just don't know why. The Army doesn't do that for soldiers. So did you find out what the hurdles are?
I taken like a deep dive into this and really, trying to contact people at different levels. The very first, obstacle that I came across was basically people not even wanting to talk about it, right? They basically say, well, senior leaders need to set the example and they need to take leave. That's their solution. And and I even encountered that in my own brigade. I have, there was one command sergeant major from the cavalry unit here that he wanted to participate in the podcast today, but he just got a brand new commander, so they're out busy doing things. But at 1 out of 5 command sergeant majors agrees with me that this is a problem, and everyone else says, everyone just needs to get better at taking leave, or they say something along the lines of, it's something that's never going to change. It's always been that way. And that's the kind of the mindset that I want to change. I really dislike that kind of thinking. But other than that, I think that was the real hurdle, is that people just don't see a problem, or maybe they don't want to go through the legwork to actually make it a program. I'm hoping that through today's events and the article that we can spawn the conversation. I mean, from your time as a DA civilian, have you heard anybody else talk about this or have any ideas on how to get it to the next level?
No, not for soldiers. It's just something that as a Army civilian professional, we're it's just something that's there, and we're aware of it. But as far as soldiers, I don't even think most soldiers, just like in your research that you did or your survey, most soldiers don't even know that Army civilian professionals ACPs can donate their leave.
I think it leads to other bad things as well, because and what I mean is, specifically, let's talk about, when I say a senior, we can say, we'll just make the metric retiring. Okay. So that's a staff sergeant or higher, right? There's a lot of folks that will, they'll start, they want more time off than they're authorized, right? Because they're retiring, in quotation marks. And even though they'll have the leave, and these, it's hard as a first sergeant trying to manage this population, because you want to help them out. They've done their time, they've earned their retirement, but also you got to process that DA Form 31. And I've just seen it before, where I've been approached as a first sergeant where they didn't want to get charged leave. They didn't want to lose their leave, or they wanted to try and file some kind of extension paperwork so they could use their leave at a later time, and they wouldn't lose it, even though, and things were kind of foggy the last couple of years with COVID and, the different types of leaves that you weren't going to lose. I think I still have leave that's saved from 2019 from a deployment that I had right before COVID-19 happened. And so it's kind of foggy on what the user, or the leave regulation. It breaks it down and makes it seem simple, but when you start asking questions why can't I give the leave to someone else? If I was to contact the proponent, to the people that write that regulation, I think that they're going to tell me, hey, you just need to take your leave. And that doesn't solve the problem of of the young soldiers that are going in the hole. And so I think I wrote that in the article too. Like that is the number one solution is to just take your leave, but it's not going to happen. I have leave that I don't think I'm going to lose this year because I'm PCSing to Hawaii in August, but it's not about the like forecasting. Like no one wants to lose leave, but they do. And so in the event that you do, you can take that, put it into I don't know if you use the voluntary leave bank program or if you just use the transfer program, but I kind of like the idea of both. But the hurdles that you're talking about, it's just talking about it. That's, I think, how we solve any problems. It's more convincing people that it is senior leaders in the Army, that it is a problem that needs to get fixed. And I also think it's a no cost solution doing this. It doesn't really cost the Army anything in terms of millions of dollars to incorporate something like this. I'm going to tie this back to what I was talking about in the beginning, the problems that it creates. A lot of times, my real point was that when soldiers don't have time, first sergeants are plagued with that moral or ethical decision of, am I going to process this leave form or not? And I'm just being completely transparent about that. The right answer is always process the leave form, but someone with a heart is not going to want to process a leave form for someone that's taking emergency leave because they don't have the leave. They don't want them to go experience, taking care of a lost family member and then coming back and being, 14 or 21 days in the hole. And so first sergeants, I experience, will not process that leave, and that puts them in a bad area as well.
Sergeant Major, first of all, who does this benefit the most, do you think, if this system was implemented?
I think it benefits young soldiers and like soldiers, the first term soldiers, if I was going to be specific,
Well, the greatest point that I pulled out of this personally was when you talked about being able to donate or even offer your leave to be donated to like AER, for instance, that could be given out to soldiers in a time of crisis, especially the newer soldiers when they don't have any leave, because most soldiers don't even, they join the Army, they don't even have any leave to take. And then they got to take a 20-day leave or whatever for some crazy emergency that happens back home, unfortunately, and they don't have the time to take it.
Or they will take it, and that just kind of sets them up for failure for the next couple of years of their life, really.
Right. So if you could, Sergeant Major, do you have a story like that of a new soldier coming in and something like that happens and this program really could have helped?
Yeah, sure. She's no longer in the Army, but I was a first sergeant at Fort Bliss in 1st Armored Division back in 2019. We came back from Afghanistan in November, and basically, there was a soldier that come back. There was a soldier that that came to the unit and that didn't deploy with us, but had came, right before we deployed, but didn't end up making it on the deployment. And she was just one of those ones that had a situation that new to the unit. She basically was a first term soldier, but had just PCS to Fort Bliss, right? And had, most people, when they PCS, they're going to take 30 days, right? That's just kind of the standard going rate. And she had basically used up all of her leave. And so she was brand new to the unit and then immediately had to leave on emergency leave. And so we granted the leave. And this ties back to my conundrum or my dilemma, right? As should I process a leave or shouldn't I process the leave? Like, what's the right thing to do? Because she didn't do anything wrong. She did not the one that caused this family crisis, that caused her to be the only one in her family that could take care of it. And who are we to decide who the right person is to go home to take care of a lost family member, right? And so, ultimately, as the first sergeant, I had use or lose that at that time, and I would have gladly given it to her. And what I did instead was I processed the leave form like I'm supposed to, and she ended up going, she was a specialist at the time, but she ended up going 21 days in the hole that, when everyone else was gone, right? She basically everyone was coming back from like post-deployment leave, or I can't remember the exact specifics of it. There was no one there because everyone was gone, and she was sitting there basically going in the hole because she had just PCS to Fort Bliss. And then when she came back, because we were all gone, she was still dealing with that personal situation by herself without like kind of a support structure to rely upon. And like I said, she's no longer in the Army anymore. She's doing well. She's moved on from that family crisis. But I think that if you were to just do a survey, and of any company of moderate size, or any company really, everyone has a story of a soldier that had to go in the hole because of a leave issue.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I think your whole idea, of pooling it, of donating leave, I think is a great idea. It's already being done by the Army, by ACP. So I think it would only make the Army better to incorporate such a program. I think also it's important when examining this a little deeper too, that you look at the how it's possible for some to actually abuse this.
Yeah, I think abuse is the best word for that too. That's exactly what I was thinking about when I mentioned the transfer program, and like maybe the battalion commander was the one that would approve the transfer, because I could see a world just thinking about it and brainstorming where a bunch of people would get together. What would happen if you got 100 people together from your battalion and everybody gave 1 day, not that everyone has 1 day of use or lose, but you know what I mean, like if somebody was to collect a crazy amount of leave, and then they're submitting that 120-day leave form, and that's abuse is the perfect word for that.
I've got I don't know if it's playing devil's advocate or not, but say you have we'll use you as an example, Sergeant Major. You're senior leader. You have 20 days in the books that you're going to either use, that you need to use or lose, right? It's August. You had every intention throughout the year to use your leave, but you're not able to. Now it's August, or say September. Beginning of September, you have another month, and then in October 1st, that leave is gone, correct?
That's right.
So say there's such a program as this where you donate it to something, to a pool, whether it's at the battalion, company, whatever. Wouldn't that leave still disappear on October 1st? That's kind of one of my things. I'm thinking there would be challenges to this, to where, still keeping it out there, even though you would have lost it on October 1st, how is it get kept in the books for others to use? So again, the challenges and things that need that focus group that you're talking about, a discussion amongst people that can do something, or at least come up with solutions.
Right. And I mean, this is also, there is an Army regulation for leave, but it's also a Department of Defense program, right? So every branch of service has its own way of going about it, but it's all through my pay and through DFAS, right? This voluntary leave bank program, it's different. When I'm doing the research on it through the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, it really is based on every organization and how they want to do it. And so that just means some sort of decoupling from DFAS, right? I mean, right now, as a soldier, I can go on to DFAS and I can change an allotment, or I can add money to go to this bank account, and I can add, I can change how much money I'm putting into my TSP, and I can do a lot of things on DFAS. Maybe that's as simple as that, where if you want to put your leave into the unit program, you log on to DFAS and you punch in the information for your battalion or your brigade leave program, or maybe it's by post, right? By, if you want to, AER ultimately, reports to a higher hierarchy as well. If we wanted to make it at the level of AER and allow them to be the deciding authority, just like they are for when soldiers go to get, the up to, I think it's $2,000 now. It used to be $1,000 that a soldier could go and get money from AER. If I could just go on to my pay, make a couple of clicks. I mean, in less than 5 minutes, I can change which account number my paycheck is going to. Why couldn't I do the same thing for leave? However that looks on the technical side. I guess my ideas are more on the blue sky approach to how it's managed. But if I wanted to, if I was overcharged leave, especially now with IPSA, right? And maybe IPSA is the right answer instead of my pay, but those are two systems that are in use right now. I don't even turn in any paperwork to go on leave right now. I just go, into IPSA, I fill out an absence request. that goes to my approving authority. They approve it, and I go on leave. I don't even call anyone or do anything to sign out on leave. Every unit's making their own process for that. So I guess if we were going to go to the voluntary leave bank program, I would vote for managing it. The soldiers can manage it in my pay, where they basically elect yes or no, donate my use or lose on October 1st to this organization, to this, coded organization. And if we did a voluntary leave transfer program, that's an action inside of IPSA that I go into IPSA, I complete the form, and through IPSA's, maybe the battalion commander is the one that approves that transaction. And then I can take, Sergeant Cox, needs 5 days, or Sergeant Cox needs 20 days, and all the first sergeants get together and everybody has enough, and they just automatically transfer that 5 days, to Sergeant Cox and IPSA, or, request a transfer, if that makes sense. I think that with IPSA growing into being, what the Army's trying IPSA to be, and my pay, which is already a great system, I think those we're adding on to systems that are already there.
Thank you, Sergeant Major, for joining us, and a thank you to our audience. Remember to put your knowledge to the page, submit articles, and get published with the NCO Journal. Don't forget to check out our webpage and follow us on social media. We'll catch you next time on the NCO Journal Podcast.